Hey, it's Steve Cochran live at Woody Buick in Naperville and Gurnee. Getting a little service on my SUV. Remember, I endorse it because I spend my money here, and I think you ought to consider that as well. We'll get to live from my office in just a second, but first, how about a word from Woody?
Woody here. Why Woody, you ask? Chicagoland's top-selling Buick GMC dealer with the largest Buick GMC inventory in stock. Over 1,000 of the hot new Buick and GMCs to choose from. Search Woody Buick GMC, Naperville and Gurnee, and see for yourself. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Click, shop, and drive home today. No shortage at Woody Buick GMC, Naperville and Gurnee. Woody needs your trade-in today. Hurry for best selection at year-end. Hope to see you soon, Woody. GMC, we are professional grade.
All right, this is live from my office, but this is the anything but politics version. Yeah, there's still a war going on. Yeah, the government still sucks. Yeah, Trump's still crazy, but we're not talking about that today. The guest is my old friend Mike Ferrin, who not only had the good sense to get out while there was good times getting out of the current situation that radio is in, he also has made his way in Major League Baseball to be what I would like to call technically a big shot. And you can hear him every day on SiriusXM on MLB. What's the program called?
The show is called Power Alley.
And what time are you on?
9 to noon Central.
9 to noon Central, and we are on the verge. As a matter of fact, it's opening day eve.
Yes. Yeah, the standalone game between the Yankees and the Giants, and Netflix's first foray into televising baseball, because we don't have enough streaming subscription services that we need to watch baseball, so let's add one more. And that one will be super interesting because it's the Tony Vitello debut as the new manager of the Giants. No professional coaching, managerial, or playing experience, but he won a lot of games at the University of Tennessee, and I think everybody is really interested to see how it goes.
See, when I first heard about that and heard no experience, I thought maybe he was like an Uber driver, possibly an Amazon package drop-off guy, and the Giants said, what the hell, let's take a shot.
Yeah, it's not even like a Nepo baby, right? Like, I mean, his dad was a good high school coach in St. Louis. But listen, Tony is a great coach in college and knows the game of baseball. He's very smart. He's super charismatic. It's a little different game, though, right? You're doing it every day. Like, he's done as many press conferences through spring training as he did over the course of a full regular season at the University of Tennessee. So it's going to be, I think, some challenging moments for him early on as he navigates the realities of a 162-game season. But I'm really interested to see if it works, because if it does, I think you could start to see a path for other college coaches to move into pro ball and well, not just move into pro ball, but move into big league dugouts. And there's some really good baseball minds there.
So how long is the college baseball season at that level?
So it's 14 weeks for the regular season. So like the college baseball season starts on February 12th, or right around there. So this year it was February 13th, I think. So after this weekend, we'll be halfway through the regular season, and then it ends in the middle of June. So every game, they play 56 regular season
60-ish games?
56, yeah. So every game is 3 times as important as a major league game. So that leads to decisions that are driven towards winning on a given night in a way that, I always like Dusty Baker's line about, like, your goal isn't to win every game in Major League Baseball, it's to win the most games. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit different in college. I mean, you're only playing 4 days a week usually, but those weekend series are really important, and so it's a much different game. It also is really cool. Like, I mean, I do a lot of college baseball for ESPN. In fact, I'm leaving tomorrow to go fly back to Charlotte so that I can go to Clemson for a couple of games. And it's a really fun environment when you get to the right spots. It's like very exciting, and the quality of play is really good. So, I mean, he's worked with premium players. One of his great strengths, by Tellos, was recruiting, which he doesn't really get a chance to do as a manager, but he's been around the game his entire life, and I'm really interested to see how this ends up playing out, because he definitely is a dynamic personality. He's magnetic. I think people will be drawn to him, and we'll see how it works as a manager.
Well, I hope it does. You may have noticed I'm sporting an old Negro League cap today. The Washington Black Senators, and you could support the Negro League's Hall of Fame if Google them up and buy yourself some gear. I know it's appreciated there. Before we dive full on into baseball, and opening day. I know you follow the rest of sports. You follow the rest of the world's news. So I'm working on a game show. I haven't got the pilot quite done yet, but the loose title is called "How Stupid Are You?" And and I thought we'd just play this as a bit of a warm up. Consider this bullpen time.
Okay.
Okay. So I will give you a statement first from celebrities, category celebrities. I'll give you a statement, and then you tell me what celebrity made that statement.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I'd rather smoke crack than eat cheese from a can. I'd rather smoke crack than eat cheese from a can. Was that George? Was that George? Oh, you want to take a guess?
Oh, no. I'd like to have the choices, please. Okay. I'd like to phone a friend on this.
Was that George Clooney? Was that Oprah Winfrey? Or was that Gwyneth Paltrow?
Oh, I'm going to go with Gwyneth Paltrow. I think that definitely sounds like Gwyneth Paltrow, yeah. That's not the goop that she's looking for, Steve.
No, and she of the seller of all things Goop, which is her beauty products and intimate products line. I believe she has a candied vagina, and I'm not making that up.
Well, it's not full of spray cheese. That's for sure.
If you have a candied vagina, get to a clinic as fast as you possibly can. Let's see. Statement number two. I guess I'm going to fade into Bolivian.
Oh, I
guess I'm going to fade into Bolivian. Okay?
This is Mike Tyson that
Bingo.
said that.
Bingo. Very impressive.
Which was, I believe, who was was it Angelo Dundee who was once asked about Tyson if he got any smarter when he got out of jail, and he said he went to prison for 4 years, not Princeton.
I was not familiar, but I like it. Let me see if I can get you one more, and then we'll actually talk some baseball here again on opening day eve. Where will they play the opening game tomorrow?
San Francisco.
So they're not.
My understanding is in California.
Last I heard. So it's not the recent tradition of putting it on the other side of the earth somewhere.
No. This will actually be a domestic opening day.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of that, the World Baseball Classic seemed like it got a little heat this year. Did I misread that, or was it?
It totally did. I think 23 it started to really grow, and then this year was definitely the most attention to it. I mean, the television ratings were really good. I know we had a lot of people listening to our broadcast on the radio for it. And I think the quality of player that was involved has continued to grow. I think it's a big deal now, and players really love it. I mean, the number of players who have played in World Series and won World Series who said that this is a bigger deal to them than that event, I think shocked a lot of people. But I think when you watch the way that they play and how excited they are to represent their countries, it totally makes sense.
And in addition, the irony to me of Venezuela winning over the United States was interesting, because right after the game, Trump declared himself manager of Venezuela.
I thought he already did that a couple months ago.
Yeah. All right, let me give you one more, and then we'll actually start. This is actually a sports one. I don't think there's anybody in this organization not focused on the 49ers. Pause. I mean the Chargers. And I'm going to give you a hint. Not a multiple choice, but a hint. This was a guy who hated press conferences, looked like his dog had just died every single time he did one, and some consider him the greatest NFL coach of all time. Who is it?
Well, that would be Bill Belichick.
That's exactly right. Here's a fun fact. Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend was 8 months old when he won his first Super Bowl. Huh? How about that?
That's great. I don't know if you know this, but there's been a lot of talk about North Carolina's basketball program. Hubert Davis, the legendary player, has struggled to get them deep into the game. And the big joke has been, what's the equivalent of doing for UNC basketball what they did with UNC football? And so there's been a bunch of internet memes about Phil Jackson going to North Carolina. Now, the problem is I think his girlfriend's over 24, so it makes it a little...
It does make it a little more difficult.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they're still together, because obviously it's purely love. But just for the ladies who are listening who think every 75-year-old man wants to be with a 24-year-old woman. No. No. Not unless it can be at 2 p.m. and dinner is by 4. And even now, Bill Belichick, I'm amazed he's still with her, because anybody that age who has that experience, call your buddies, right? Tell them what happened. Yeah, they'll tell you you're a liar, but at least you had your moment. And then move on, even if you go into the witness protection program. Because You can't be with this woman, this girl, because she's going to want to do stuff. And all the stuff she wants to do, you've already done. You just want to go home. You want to watch something on Netflix and you want to go to sleep. She's going to want to take a walk in the park, a walk on the beach. She's going to want to go hiking. Why? The car's going to be right here when we get back. We're already here. That's why you don't want to date a 24-year-old, 50 years younger than you.
I do think that there is an element of being able to delegate responsibilities, though, that comes with being a little bit more senior in that. So I don't know. Maybe she's doing some of the recruiting for North Carolina.
Well, she's a beautiful girl and apparently crazy as the day is long. So good luck, Bill. All right, moving on. And by the way, his kids are thrilled about it. They check the bank account every day to see if there's anything left in the inheritance. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about baseball. And I come to this incredibly unprepared. You know, as a friend of mine, I was always prepared for everybody I spoke with. I did my homework, all of those things. I'm a diehard, lifelong baseball fan, but I have not done my winter work to know the game, certainly not at the level you do. So let's start with Chicago, where I am and where you come from. And let's begin with a group of young men that I'm really pulling for, who seemed to really enjoy themselves last year, and that's the Chicago White Sox. Is having fun playing baseball enough to get them to the next level?
No, I don't think it's quite enough. Although I do think that things are trending in the right direction, right? Listen, they will avoid 100 losses this year, which I realize sounds like I'm damning them with faint praise, but this rebuild that they kind of were forced into after the last rebuild didn't work, is going to start to show some benefits in the talent here, probably more in the second half of this year. We've already seen some of those guys, right? Colson Montgomery has been terrific. I think the Rule 5 pick that they made last year to get Shane Smith, their opening day starter, certainly has given them some great returns. Grant Taylor was terrific out of the pen last year. I thought they had a really good winter in adding, both veteran guys who were good players to take some of the pressure off of the kids, and then adding guys with upside like Munetaka Murakami, the Japanese slugger who's going to play first base for them. So it's an interesting team. I think once you get later in the year and you start to see the Oswego native Noah Schultz make his big league debut. You see Hagen Smith, first rounder from a couple years ago, debut. You see Braden Montgomery, who was one of the key guys that they got in the Crochet trade, come up. Like, you're going to start to see the talent really begin to coalesce. So they're not quite ready to compete in that division, but they're certainly moving in the right direction, and I think there will be brighter days ahead in 2027.
So if they don't lose 100, that means they've got to win 63. Could they win 70?
So I actually did another podcast here with my friends at Sox Machine, and I think they win 73 games. I think they can avoid 90 losses this year. So things are trending in the right direction. They already had a nearly 20 game increase from last year from 24 to 25. I mean, listen, there was nowhere to go but up, right? They lost 121 games. But I think that they can add another, 13 wins, I think is what the total would be. I think they're good enough to do that. I think things are going to continue to get better on the South Side.
That AL Central is kind of a weird little mess in and of itself. I don't know if it's the weakest division, but nobody there is threatening to put up 100 wins, I assume. Is it Cleveland? Is it the Twins coming back after a bad year? Who is it?
I think it's Detroit is the odds-on favorite. They signed Framber Valdez as a free agent, which is a great addition. He's been one of the better pitchers in the American League. Tarek Skubal is the best pitcher in the league, the two-time Rating Cy Young Award winner. They brought back Justin Verlander, right? And this is more than just
more importantly, they brought back Kate Hudson.
Yes, well, they brought it's a package deal. So yeah. they bring Verlander had a really good second half.
Kate Hudson, that's not her name. What's her name?
No, it's
Kate Upton.
Kate Upton, that's it.
Kate
Hudson, talk show host.
Kind of weird for Kate Upton to hear about Kate Hudson, but my mistake.
Maybe you should have cleared that with Justin first. Kate Hudson's too busy working on her Wisconsin accent. So that's
right. That's right. I left a little bit to be desired.
I used to go see those guys play at Brother Jimmy's, by the way.
Is that right?
And Thunder. Oh, yeah. They used to play in Chicago all the time. They were great.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That was a fun
younger days. Yeah,
that was a fun movie.
Anyway, but so Verlander gives them a little bit of depth. They have one of the best position player prospects in baseball who made the opening day roster, Kevin McGonigal, who plays shortstop for them. They're a little left-handed in the lineup. I'm not sure how great their lineup's going to be, but their pitching depth is good enough. And I think they're clearly the best team in that division. I think both Kansas City and Cleveland are pretty good. I think they'll be competitive for a playoff spot, and it's not like Detroit's going to run away with it. But the division is getting better, even with the Twins taking a little bit of a step back. Their new control person has said that they want to be competitive, which means I think that they're going to push forward here through this year and into next and adding some more talent. But so like the days of the AL Central being kind of the dregs of the American League, I think are over.
Okay.
And it'll be competitive at the top with Detroit as the best team.
We'll get to the Cubs in the National League shortly, but let's finish the American League. If you go to the AL West, I was thinking about Mike Trout the other day. Now, Mike Trout could easily be remembered as one of the all-time greats whenever he decides to hang it up, and maybe you know more than I do that he already has, because he's battled some pretty significant injuries recently, and he's not getting any younger. Mike Trout chose to stay in Anaheim and stay where he was probably comfortable, and you don't need to hold a garage sale for him. He's got plenty of money. He's doing just fine. But will baseball fans remember how great a guy he was on the field? What an incredible player he was? Or is that only to the baseball nuts who really follow it?
Oh, no, I think he's the best baseball player we've seen certainly in the last 25 or 30 years. And I think, maybe with the exception of Shohei Ohtani, just because Ohtani does everything. But Trout's peak was unforgettable. I mean, he was combinations of Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle in this era. You're right, the injuries have impacted him. But last year, he actually had a decent season. Batting average was down, but the power numbers started to come. He was still about 20% better than the league average offensive player. I think he's excited. I got a chance to talk to him a couple weeks ago. He's excited for this year. He feels really good. He's going to play more center field again. The key is him staying on the field. But I think he's an inner circle Hall of Famer. He is a memorable player. He was never the most dynamic personality. He kind of took the Derek Jeter tack of being a professional and just kind of focused on the day's game. And you're right, the loyalty to the Angels may have limited how famous he is worldwide. But I still think when we look back on Mike Trout's career, we'll recognize that he is one of the all-time greats. And unfortunately, he's not on a team that is likely to be competitive. They have a little bit of the old catch lightning in a bottle philosophy this year, which is like, if everything goes right, maybe we can compete. Right. But those teams almost never have everything go right.
That was kind of the way I used to approach getting to work on time at WGN. If I leave my house now and there's no traffic at all, I can still be there before they play the opening theme to my show. It's not advisable.
No, I don't know. I think it's a good use of your time. Listen, you want to make sure that you are using every minute of the day in a manner that best supports you.
I appreciate you saying that and the bullshit that's involved in you saying that. But I will tell you this, and you know this, you're a performer and you were a producer prior. You're still a producer as well. Whatever way you find your energy, whatever way you find your moment, I always like making an entrance. And there was nothing quite like making an entrance where the general manager is sitting in one of the news people's chairs waiting for you to arrive. That's making an entrance, boys and girls.
I just think it's a really good way to avoid meetings.
Yeah, which, as you know, I'm allergic to. Definitely allergic to.
Especially when we were there.
I carried a meeting EpiPen. If I had to go to any, I just didn't want to go into the hospital.
Well, I knew all the people that you had to meet with, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, they were all big fans. So in the AL West, who wins?
I think Seattle is the team to beat. We were just talking about this morning. Like, I don't love any of the teams in the division. I have questions about all of them, but I like Seattle the best. They have, if they're healthy, really good starting pitching. The top part of their lineup is strong. They have some really good young position players coming. Got to keep an eye on who'll be up at some point this year is Colt Emerson, who will probably play some third base for them and slide into shortstop next year when J.P. Crawford leaves via free agency. They have a good bullpen. They were one win away from the World Series last year. They were really just a handful of outs away from their first ever World Series. So it's a team with really high expectations, and they should expect to be the best team in that division. Houston's pitching is pretty good. Their starters are deep. Texas is a tough team for me to grasp because they have some really high-end talent, but it feels like they're a little short on depth. And the A's young position players are really fun, but their pitching just is not good enough yet. So I think the Mariners end up making it. And I don't want to say by default, but somebody's going to have to win the American League West per the rules.
Yeah, you do have to have a division champ.
Yeah.
And remind me, the A's move to Vegas next year?
No, one more year after that. It's at least what's scheduled, but they're making very good progress on the ballpark. It has, like, they've already poured the concrete for the main concourse. It's where the Tropicana used to be, right on the Strip. And I actually was in Vegas a couple weeks ago for a college baseball tournament. I had breakfast with a buddy of mine. He said, one thing we do really well in Vegas is build things and build them on time or ahead of schedule. So it sounds like they're ahead on that, which is great news.
And we go to the East. I was surprised the Yankees didn't make a GM change. Is that just being a Yankee fan as a kid, thinking it's past time? You weren't surprised?
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think Brian Cashman has achieved an awful lot. I don't know who you're going to replace him with, who is better. I'm not surprised.
Pinella's available?
I don't know that Lou is quite as dialed in these days as he was. Well, I'm not sure that Lou was ever all that dialed in, to be honest with you.
I'll tell you a great
man,
Pinella
he can throw a rant.
I'll tell you a great Pinella story he told me about being general manager. So he's GM. This goes back to the Houston Astros and the Astrodome days. And I was lucky to call Pinella a friend when he was here because I grew up as a kid as a Yankee fan, especially in the late 70s when they were Showtime. So he goes, guess what Steinbrenner asked me to do once? We were looking at a player on the Astros, and he couldn't remember who the player was. He goes, but I don't want to get busted for tampering, so I want you to go out there, and I want you to wear an overcoat and a hat, and go up in the third deck. I'm not trusting the scouts because I don't know who I can trust. I'm trusting you. I want you to go check them out. And he looks at Steinbrenner. He goes, George, the temperature inside the Astrodome is 72 degrees until you get to the upper deck where it's about 95. He said, I am going to look like a pedophile or a flasher if I'm wearing an overcoat and a hat watching a baseball game. And it just went on and on. This is even better. Yogi's the manager. And Steinbrenner, as on Seinfeld, literally had a desk that was above the rest of the people in the room. Mm-hmm. So Steinbrenner's sitting on his Steinbrenner platform. They had lost, and Steinbrenner called a mandatory meeting. So Yogi's in there, Gene Michael's in there, and Lou's in there, and maybe a couple other coaches. And Steinbrenner is ripping into Yogi, calling him every terrible name in the book. You wop, you useless wop, this and that. And Pinella starts giggling. And Steinbrenner looks at Lou and goes, what's so funny, Lou? And he goes, well, that little Italian's about to come across the desk at you. He said before he could get the sentence out of his mouth, Yogi dove on the desk, came across him, grabbed Steinbrenner by the throat, and knocked him backwards off his chair. And I said, what did you do? He said, I held Gene Michael back for 30 seconds before I let him save Steinbrenner's life.
Well, that explains why Yogi and the Yankees had such a fraught relationship after he got fired as manager there. So
yeah. Good times had by all. All right, back at it. So the Yankees, the Red Sox, Toronto, certainly, they turned out to be more fun than I even knew they could be. Who else?
I think Baltimore. There's a 4-team race there. And, the Yankees ended up finishing tied with the Jays. They finished with the same record last year. I like the Yankees a little bit more than I like Toronto and Boston this year. I do think Baltimore has a chance to make the postseason. They're a little bit like last year's Jays, right? They're coming down off a down year after a couple of playoff appearances, but there's a lot of talent on that roster. So I could see them potentially making a run. They're going to need guys like Shane Baz, who they got in a trade from Tampa Bay, to really take a step forward in anchoring the rotation. The stuff and the strikeout rate, walk rate, all those things are way better than what his ERA was last year. He really got dinged playing those games at Steinbrenner Field, or what used to be Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, because the Rays had to move outside the Trop last year while that was being repaired. So I think they're an interesting squad, but I have the Yankees as a slight favorite there. I still think Toronto, Boston, certainly playoff teams. Toronto's really good. Like they're deep enough that they can withstand some of the injuries that they've had early this year. I'm not sure that their offense is going to be quite as robust as last year's without Bo Bichette, but it's still plenty good enough. And I'm very interested to see how that race turns out, because I think it could be one where we're still 2 weeks from the end of the season, and not only is it not decided, but there's 4 teams battling at the top still for the top spot.
So Baltimore, do they need to get lucky to get in? They need some injuries at the top, and they need to make a run, or are they in it all year long?
No, they need to be healthy. They need to be healthy. I mean, that's the biggest thing. They need a bounce back from Adley Rutschman. They added Pete Alonso to their lineup, which is a pretty big bat. I mean, he's the best power hitter in Mets history. And so he's going to have an impact on them. Adley Rutschman had a rough year last year. I think if he bounces back, added with Gunnar Henderson, who's one of the best players in the league, then they've got a core offensive group that is good enough to compete in that division. Westberg and Jackson Holiday, and like those guys are really good players. So I think that they're going to be there in the mix. I don't think it's something that they need bad luck from anybody else. They need better luck and better health on their own end.
Makes sense. Let's go to the National League in the Central. Before I ask you about the Cubs, I'm going to be in St. Louis in a few days for a meeting and seeing some friends and things. And it's just weird to me to go to St. Louis and know that the Cardinals are having to do ticket promotions to draw fans, and also that they have been out of the playoffs for as long as they have been. They're just reeling. Have they done anything to fix their problems?
Well, they have a new head of baseball operations, Chaim Bloom, who used to be in charge of the Red Sox, and Chaim is one of the smartest guys in baseball. They have seen a complete turnover in the last year and a half in the way that they're developing players. They have a new amateur scouting director. He's actually an old buddy of mine, Zach Mortimer, who's very good. They have a lot of young talent on their roster, but a lot that's not quite ready to be competitive yet. I'm really excited about it. J.J. Weatherholt, who was their first-round pick 2 years ago, is going to open the year as their second baseman. He's got a chance to be a super dynamic player. I don't think that their 95 loss is bad, but they're not going to compete in what's suddenly a deep division. Another year from now, I think we'll be talking a little differently about them. And certainly 2 years from now, I think they'll be back near the top of the NL Central. But this is going to be a reset year for them. They had been trending towards a rebuild. Now they ripped the Band-Aid off by trading Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras and Brendan Donovan. And they've put themselves in a position where they're going to be trying to get young players a lot of opportunities to improve. But with Weatherholt, Ivan Herrera's kind of an underrated hitter, the catcher DH, who's got real power and is just a really good bat. Mason Wynn is an outstanding shortstop. There are some pieces there that you could get excited about with the Cardinals. It's just there's not enough yet for them. But they have taken on a much more aggressive path to getting their young players opportunities and giving them a chance to figure out who can sink and who can swim so that they can make better decisions down the road.
So when it comes to September, is it Brewers Cubs or somebody else in the mix as well?
Yeah, I think it's Brewers Cubs for the most part. I mean, the Cubs are the best team on paper in the division. You have to give the Brewers a lot of credit, right? Like they're constantly there. And so they've made, 7 of the last 8 postseasons, and the only one they missed by a single game. So I think they're right there. Cincinnati made the postseason last year and is a pretty good team. I think their position player group is deeper. They're going to be without Hunter Green for most of the summer. He had bone chips removed from his elbow just about a week ago. So it's going to take him a while to recover and then build back up. But they have a lot of pitching depth. I think it's a pretty good team. And Pittsburgh is really interesting. Their arms, first of all, they've got Paul Skeens, right? Like you've got the best pitcher in the league. They also have a position player prospect in Connor Griffin, who's going to open in the minor leagues, but I don't think will be there very long. He's probably the best position player prospect since Mike Trout, and he's got a chance to have a massive impact. They added offense this winter. The pitching is really good and really young. I think they're kind of a sleeper team in that division. I don't think that they can get over the hump this year, but I think they're not going to be somebody that anybody wants to play because they have like 30 guys that throw 100 miles an hour, and all of their stuff is nasty. It's a bad matchup for just about every team with the pitching that they have.
The East is always interesting. The Braves, to me, sort of remind me of the 90s Braves, not in talent, but we're going to win a whole bunch of games, and we're not going to get over in the playoffs. Am I remembering this right? The Braves, with those incredible 90s teams, they only won one World Series?
Yeah, which is as much as this current group's won. They won in 2021, so yeah.
So Braves and who?
Well, I think the Braves are actually in jeopardy of missing the playoffs for the
No, you're
second
kidding.
straight year because they have had a ton of injuries to the rotation already. They're going to be without two of their key starters, Hurston Waldrop and Spencer Schwellenbach, until at least June. They both had bone chips removed from their elbows. So again, like, it's not a major surgery, but it just takes a lot. You have to wait for the scar to heal, and then you got to build back up, and it takes 8 weeks for pitchers to get built up. Spencer Strider, who had a down year last year, was kind of their star ace. Hasn't really bounced back from his second major elbow surgery, and now he's got an oblique issue that's going to put him on the IL to open the year. They're short in the rotation. Jurickson Profar is an idiot, so he got suspended for a second time for steroids, which means that's going to cost him the entire season this time, which they had built their roster expecting to have him. They're a little bit deeper in the position player group than they have been.
That's the MLB dip. That's the MLB dipshit clause, right? If you get caught twice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely, like, it's what was the old George Bush line? Fool me once, shame on me.
Yeah.
Fool me twice, and we won't get fooled again, right? Like, that's
right,
basically the equivalent of it, right? Just a moron. So, and cost himself, it was on a 3-year contract, right? And the first 2 years, a year and a half of that, he won't get any money from. So, lots of really good life decisions on Profar's part here. So they're thinner. They still have Ronald Acuna Jr., but the two teams to watch in that division are the Mets and the Phillies. The Phillies are older, but really talented. They still won 95 games a year ago.
But they've got to win now.
They have to.
Because I was trying to apply for Medicare the other day, and the Phillies were in line in front of me.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
They're not quite the Wheeze kids of 1983 that won the pennant, but they're trending in that direction. So they're running out of time. The Mets completely reshaped their roster in a really interesting way. They said they wanted to focus more on defense, so they acquired Marcus Semien in a trade. They traded Brandon Nimmo, a fan favorite. They didn't re-sign Pete Alonso. They traded for Luis Robert Jr., who, when he's on the field, is a terrific center fielder. And then they went and signed Bo Bichette to play third base, and he's never played third base. He wasn't a particularly good shortstop defensively. Can he handle third? They replaced Alonso with a guy that has never played first base, and Jorge Polanco, who has been a second baseman DH. So did they improve in that spot? Time will tell. They've added a ton of pitching. They traded for Freddie Peralta from the Brewers. He's going to start opening day for them. So they're an interesting team. I picked them to win the division just because I like their depth a little bit better. But it's going to be pretty close between them and Philly at the top. Atlanta still has enough talent that they can make a run at it. But, man, they need a lot to go right at this point.
Your description of the Mets and how they're juggling players in spots they don't know reminds me of that scene in Moneyball where Brad Pitt goes for the midnight meeting. They're sitting there and he tells him, Scott, that first base is easy. And the coach goes, it's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So
tell him watch. It's incredibly hard. Yeah.
Yeah. You're teaching two players to play things they haven't played, maybe even back to Little League. You go out west and it's the Dodgers and everybody else.
Yes. The Dodgers are good. I know that's the quality analysis that you had me on for, right? Was to tell you that the Dodgers.
Well, the reason I bring it up is, anything can happen in a 162 game season, but they're so deep that it's hard to imagine that they don't make a run, make it stick, and get back to probably another World Series.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to make the World Series again. Getting to 3 World Series in a row, especially with baseball's playoff format, is really difficult. But they're the favorites in the division, clearly. If you're a fan of the Padres or the Giants or the Diamondbacks and you're looking for a little bit of hope, their lineup is actually older than the Phillies. And even the key guy that they added in, Kyle Tucker, who is a bona fide star, has had a lot of injuries over the last 2 years. Their bullpen is deeper. They got Edwin Diaz, who had been closing for the Mets, who's very good. They have a lot of really talented starters who they managed to get healthy all at the same time in October last year, and I don't know that they can guarantee that this season. So I don't think it's as talented as the team is on paper. I do think that there are paths where the Dodgers don't run away with the division. They haven't the last 2 years. And they've been on the ropes a couple times in the playoffs. I mean, remember, they nearly lost a series to the Padres in the division series 2 years ago. Last year, they were, 2 outs away from losing the World Series. So It's not perfect for them. They are really talented, but there are some things that could go wrong. And, listen, there's not a great team behind them. Arizona has some of the best position players in the league with Ketel Marte and Geraldo Perdomo and Corbin Carroll, who are their big stars. It's a deep lineup with an okay rotation and a questionable bullpen. The Padres have some stars, but a questionable rotation and a great bullpen. The Giants have just not a lot of depth. But there are paths for all of them to compete in the division with the Dodgers and certainly to advance out of the National League playoffs if one or some of them were to make it.
And I would just say this to people who maybe were baseball fans and have drifted in the past few years for whatever the reason, distractions, lost your love for the game. Don't miss out on the fact that the Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Wayne Gretzky of baseball is playing right now.
Yes.
There's nobody like Shohei Ohtani, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't see this guy in action. He seems to have a tremendous love for the game, but Babe Ruth wasn't half the pitcher Shohei Ohtani is. No. So stop comparing the two of them, folks. And Shohei Ohtani is just a pleasure.
Absolutely. He is a dynamite hitter. He is a very good pitcher. He's healthy again now. He looked outstanding last year, up until Game 7 of the World Series, where he was starting on a little shorter rest, and he was shaky. But he's going to be a key member of the rotation and the best hitter in their lineup this year. And he is a true international superstar and probably the biggest star that baseball has had since Griffey, and he might even exceed him because of his international appeal.
Tiger Woods' father had Tiger playing from the age of 2 or 3, hitting balls and doing it well on Mike Douglas, for those of you old enough to remember who that was, when he was 5 years old. I don't know Ohtani's family background. Is he just a medical freak and a physical freak and a prodigy, or did he have a dad in the background who was making him play baseball?
I don't know that he had a dad in the background that was forcing him to play. I think he's bigger, stronger, faster than just about everybody. I mean, he's 6'4". He is massive. If you stand next to him, he looks much more NFL tight end than what you would think of as a baseball player. And he's unbelievably fast. I mean, he's just, or at least was. I don't know that his speed is quite the same as it was a few years ago, but he was one of the fastest players in the league. He's just a little bit of a freak. He played in high school. The coach that he played for is actually the father of Stanford's first baseman, Rintaro Sasaki, who is prominent in the fact that he was a significant Japanese amateur who came to the U.S. to play college ball. Sasaki was the top prep home run hitter in Japanese high school history. And so that's who he played for in high school, a very, very good high school program. And he had chances to come to the U.S. He nearly signed with the Dodgers as an amateur before going into the NPB draft. And the only reason that he went through the Japanese League draft is because they would let him pitch and hit. And that's what he wanted to do. The Dodgers, it seems crazy now, thought more of him as a pitcher when he was an amateur. And I think even the Angels thought more of him as a pitcher than a hitter when they signed him when he came from Japan. And yet the pitching is almost an afterthought compared to how great he's been as an offensive player.
Well, and you know what I love too is in that story you just told is his love of the game and how he doesn't want to get off the field.
Yeah.
Because the modern athlete, that's not them. The modern athlete is, when you find that, it's more of an exception than the rule.
Yeah, I think in baseball, most of those guys want to play. I actually think that it's a lot of club-driven decisions on them not playing in an effort to try and maximize the days that they are the healthiest so that they get the best production from them because it's such a long season. But you're right in that he loves doing this and that he wants to do both, right? Like he's excited to be a part of it. And the amount of work that he puts in to be a high-level hitter and a high-level pitcher is, I mean, those are long days with a very strict routine. He's incredibly disciplined. There's just not a whole lot of people, I think, that can have that focus in addition to the physical talents that he brings.
And of the teams you mentioned, at least the division winners, Detroit, Seattle, Yankees, Brewers, Mets, Dodgers, assuming it's not a wild card team, who wins the World Series?
Well, I got to go back and tell you who I picked. I just had to do picks, and I sent them to my boss, and I said, I hate these. So I want you to know I'm super confident in them.
Well, this is like doing a second March Madness pool. Pick somebody else then.
Yeah, it's kind of it. I picked Milwaukee and Seattle as the pennant winners. Seattle as the World Series champion. Some of that might be bias on my part. My My in-laws and my brother-in-law and his family live in Seattle, and I would like to see them get over the hump, seeing as my nephew, who's at University of Michigan, told me that he had never been sadder in his entire life than when the Mariners lost Game 7 of the ALCS, which I responded to with pretty charmed life, kid.
Yeah, no doubt. But that would be wild because that would make Seattle the sports center of America.
Yeah. Well, and beating Milwaukee, which you know where the Brewers came from, right?
Right.
They were the Seattle Pilots. So
Pilots,
it'd be a revenge series if it happens. I have zero confidence that that's what it's actually going to turn out to be, but that's what I picked. So
and your sleeper team, a team that maybe even surprises you?
Man, who's a good sleeper team in there? Yeah, I don't know that I can call the Reds a sleeper team because they made the playoffs last year, but that's a team that I think is better than the projection systems have them at. The other one is Kansas City. I really like their roster. Bobby Witt Jr. is incredible. I mean, I don't think there's any other word to describe him. He was, during the World Baseball Classic, often the best player on the field, and that was with Aaron Judge as his teammate. Defensively, he is spectacular. He's an incredibly impactful offensive player. He runs the bases extremely well. He is absolutely great. And to me, that's one of the things that he does is because his defense is so good, he can impact a game even when he's not swinging the bat well. And I think he's the kind of guy that he elevates the level of play with all of the guys around him because he's so good, so humble, does everything so right, that I think they're a team that's really dangerous because they have Bobby Witt Jr. and nobody else in the American League does. And that's even with the Yankees having Aaron Judge. And Aaron Judge is an all-time great, but Bobby Witt Jr. is ridiculous.
I'll leave you with one more question from this pilot that I'm producing that we started this off with. I forgot what I called it. What are you, stupid? Was that what I called it?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I guess the idiot? I don't remember.
Yeah, I guess the idiot.
Like that. Yeah.
I'll give you the statement, and you tell me who said it. Here's the statement. I think gay marriage ought to be between a man and a woman. I think gay marriage should be between a man and a woman. Here's your clues. He's famous. He was an action star and a politician.
Ooh, is that Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Bingo. You got
and
it.
My other guess was Jesse Ventura, but...
Yeah. But I think we can all agree gay marriage should always be between a man and a woman.
That's true. That's probably an angle that a lot of people hadn't considered.
You and I both had the pleasure of working with the Big O, and his legacy is and will always be the great respect he showed and the great respect he demanded for America's farmers. Anything you want to say about O?
Nobody has ever been better reading the lyrics to Badonkadonk. That's what I would say. Listen, I was so lucky to get to work at WGN when I did, because not only because
when it was a radio
station
with
you, and it was great. And so many of those people that I got a chance to work with were people that I grew up listening to, whether it be Spike O'Dell or Lyle Dean or the late Tom Peterson or Max Armstrong and Orion Samuelson. Orion was a huge part of my childhood because we were a WGN household that the radio was on all the time. Meeting him and then having him be even better in real life than he was on the radio was really cool. I think that was the case with just about everybody we worked with there who were legends.
Right.
And so, like, being able to be around him and just watch his professionalism, see his sense of humor, how kind and generous he was with his time with everyone. They hit me hard when Big O passed last week. It just, I thought a lot about his family. I thought a lot about Max Armstrong, who was his colleague for so many years. And somebody else that I really loved and respected. So just know that if you grew up listening to Big O, he was even better in real life than you could have imagined. And man, do you remember when they almost got him to run for Senate? I was thinking about that.
Oh, I was in those meetings, buddy. I was around, and I'm not overstating this. Had he made a different choice in how much he wanted to invest personally in his own campaign, you might not have heard of Barack Obama as quickly as you did, because he owned everything south of 80, as we say here in Illinois, and he was beloved statewide. So it would have been interesting.
Yeah, that would have been a lot better choice than one, the one that the Republicans made, and two, when they were courting Ditka in the same Senate.
Right.
I just like that Senate. Somebody should write a book just about the Republican search for a candidate for Senate that year, because who was Ryan was his name, right?
Pat, and not Pat Ryan.
No. I can't think of his first name, but he was married to Jerry Ryan, the actor.
He was married to Jerry Ryan, and the
fell
whole thing
apart
fell
because
apart.
he was taking her to sex clubs.
Right, which now, by the way, would be cute, because the standards have changed. Isn't it wild? I can't think of his name, but you're right. Yeah, and he
beat the milk guy too, right? Wasn't Oberweis one of the primary candidates?
Listen, Oberweis runs for everything. Oberweis is the terminal candidate. I said to Oberweis at a fundraiser at one point, or a charity event, I said, "You make great chocolate peanut butter ice cream. How about you focus on that?" No. You're my it's a great pleasure to connect with you. You're my friend. You always will be, and I'm going to get out to Arizona and see you soon. So my best to your wife and the 37 dogs you guys have.
Well, thank you. The dogs, as you could hear in the background, I'm sure, are agitated today, but we appreciate.
They're my next guest.
Best to you and the kids. Yeah, George has a lot to say.
So, see, hear, experience Mike Ferrin, whether it's ESPN for college baseball and hopefully some MLB stuff if you want to do it. And every day of the week on Power Alley, 9 till noon, SiriusXM channel
89.
Channel 89. Thank you, buddy.
Yep.
That was great. I tell you, we're like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers if they both were gay and were married. What?
I don't know. At least we can still dance. So.
Exactly right. All right. Enjoy your afternoon, man, and I'll send this to you.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks,
man. Talk to you later.
See you.
Bye.
Hey, it's Steve Cochran, wrapping it up from Woody Buick, where the service department just did a great job for me, as they always do. Woody Buick in Naperville and Gurnee. Go get yourself a car. You deserve it. Look at you. All you do for everybody else. Right, Woody?
Woody here, Woody Buick GMC, Naperville and Gurnee, Chicagoland's largest selection of the hot new Buick, Envista, and Encore GX. Search Woody Buick GMC, Naperville and Gurnee, and see for yourself. Hope to see you soon, Woody. Buick, exceptional by design.
Look, I've known Woody a long time. I don't think that's all he has to say. Woody, want to add anything?
Woody here, Woody Buick GMC, Naperville and Gurnee, Chicagoland's largest selection of GMC Sierras, Yukons, and Acadias. Search Woody Buick GMC, Naperville, Gurnee, and see for yourself. Hope to see you soon, Woody. GMC, we're professional grade.
As always, thank you, Ross Cochran, executive producer of Live from My Office. I don't know if you heard, we're flying back to the moon this week. It's March 30th right now. I think April 1st is the flight. So it's wait till 1969 because we're going back to the moon. It's actually an important thing to do, and we'll explain it when David Curley is the guest next time. He's ABC's former expert on all things that move. He understands aviation and space better than those little green Martians. And Mr. Curley will join me to explain the moon launch project and what'll happen next and what'll happen going forward. He's a good dude. You'll like it. In the meantime, please subscribe, follow, rate, review, all of those good things. Wherever you listen to the podcast, or subscribe as well on my YouTube channel. That's the Live from My Office channel. And you never miss an episode there as well. Thanks again to Woody Buick and my friends at Apt Electronics, sponsors of Live from My Office. And don't forget to check out my Substack, where I do This Week in Trump. Twit is the name of the column. Amongst other things I write there as well. Hey, one golf note. I'm all golfed up because it's springtime. I love the fact that one of the good guys on tour, Gary Woodland, won the Houston Open the other day. Fantastic. He's dealing with PTSD, post-brain surgery, and he's really been struggling, and he won. And he's one of the, quote, old guys on tour at 41 or 42 years old. He's just a good dude. So congratulations to Gary Woodland. And on the heels of the Tiger Woods debacle from a few days before, it's exactly the kind of story golf needs. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. If you live in the Chicago area, thanks for coming out to the stand-up comedy shows I'm doing here and there and everywhere. My friend Tim Becker putting on the Copley comedy series. And we had a sold-out show just the other day as well there. Until next time, go Illini! I-L-L-I-N-I. You know the drill. It's Final Four time. And we'll see you down the road on the next Live from My Office, or anything but politics.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.